Hey everyone, welcome to Clickheads. I'm Eddie the Chump, and today we're going to be talking about Valorant and some potentially very spicy leaks concerning new unreleased agents that have surfaced in the last few days. Now, the information comes from two Twitter accounts that I highly suggest you follow if you're into bleeding edge info about the game, and these are Valentory and FireMonkey. Both their Twitters are linked below in the description. It seems some people have been able to data mine a lot of this stuff from the Valorant beta installer, and because of that, I'm a bit more confident in the veracity of what I'm going to talk about today. As always with potential leaks though, we do have to acknowledge that some of it could be changed or removed from a final version of the game, and with the beta releasing tomorrow, we don't have to wait that long anyway. So let's start off with the juiciest news. Both Valentory and FireMonkey reported on two new possible agents being hidden within the game files. One is called Raze and the other Shatter. Now, Riot have already confirmed in their stream with Lupo that the beta will have 10 playable agents, with the bootcamp having had 9 present at playtest. That means only one of these two new potential agents will make it into the beta. And because of the comparative levels of what info was found, it's my bet that Raze will be the 10th playable agent. FireMonkey in particular found artwork and in-game models for Raze that gives her a much more developed feel, with Valentory even having tweeted a potential kit listing and description. Now, they don't credit where this particular info comes from specifically, so keep that in mind, but let's go through it anyway and discuss her kit as it pertains to how the game currently plays. First off, let's cover her bio. It reads, Raze loves explosives. With her blunt force trauma playstyle, she excels at flushing entrenched enemies and clearing tight spaces with a generous dose of boom. When I read that and look at her picture, I immediately get the sense of who she is and how she's going to play. I mean, she has a giant rocket launcher and a t-shirt that literally spells it out for you. Let's continue on to her abilities. Blast Pack. Instantly throw a blast pack that will stick to surfaces. Reuse the ability after deployment to detonate, damaging and moving anything hit. Does anyone else instantly think of C4 from Call of Duty? Yeah, I thought so. That sounds amazing. Liam will certainly be excited. He's always liked using C4 in a pub stomping context in that game for sure. This kind of utility sounds perfect for clearing out tight angles that you'd otherwise have to expose your agent to danger to check. Now, when I think a little deeper, this really makes me think of comparisons to Breach, who already has explosive corner checking tools in his Aftershock ability. Now, I have a lot of playtime with that character, and I found that particular ability difficult to implement because it's quite slow and allows players quite a lot of time to react and move. A C4, as I know it from other games, is a little bit different to that. Part of the strength of C4 in, say, COD is that you don't have to wait for it to stick somewhere to detonate it, effectively giving the user a short-range power grenade that they can detonate at will, even when it's still in midair. Now, this blast pack description says you reuse the ability once deployed to make it explode. Maybe there's a limitation there, in that it has to land and stick somewhere before you can make it explode. That would make it more in line with how the rest of the game functions, because it gives your opponents time to react and make a counterplay, especially when you consider that this ability also moves enemies on hit apparently, which is very powerful. Breach's ult does that, but a regular ability? There are very few, if any, ability interactions in Valorant that are instantaneous, where you don't have time to at least try and avoid it, Jet's kunai ultimate being an exception once it's cast. I'd be very surprised if it worked exactly like a COD C4, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let's move on. Cluster Grenade. Fire to throw the grenade, which does damage and creates sub-munitions, each doing damage to anyone in their range. Now, this sounds very direct and simple, like a lot of other Valorant abilities. Throw this grenade within an area, stuff will get hurt, possibly with some expanding AoE, as well as the little grenades explode subsequently. If you think about it, this is essentially area denial or checking utility, like a molly from CS, which agents like Brimstone and Phoenix already have, and ability overlap actually is a thing in Valorant. Unlike in a game like Overwatch, many agents have similar working stuff with their own unique twists. This is much more like League of Legends and Riot development in general. Many agents have some form of smoke, as another example. Again, this ability sounds nasty, but I bet there's some time for players to counterplay it before it completely wrecks them. Boom Bot. Fire will deploy the bot, causing it to travel in a straight line on the ground, bouncing off walls. The boom bot will lock onto any enemies in its frontal cone and chase them, exploding for heavy damage if it reaches them. Well, that sounds to me like an explosive Roomba. Now, before we jump to conclusions and say that sounds a bit too good, especially the hunter-killer aspect of it, we need to understand one principle. Almost all deployable drones or utility can be destroyed in Valorant. Sova's Recon Arrow and Owl Drone are easy to kill, and if this is true, I expect Boombot to follow suit. Yeah, it sounds bad to be chased down, but you'll be able to see it coming, and most likely it will also feature clear and distinct sound cues. I keep saying Valorant abilities always have outplay options, and I think this will be no different. Potentially great, but only when used correctly, otherwise it'll be wasted. This being the third of Raze's potential abilities in this list, this could also be her signature one, which usually comes with some recharging feature, be it cooldown or kill credit. I would think because it's directly damaging that it might be on kill, but Breach's fault line is on cooldown, so it'd be a guess at best. Showstopper Ultimate. Fire shoots a rocket that does massive area damage on contact with anything. There's a few things to consider here. It'd be rubbish if Raze didn't get to use a massive rocket launcher. I mean, that's part of her appeal, right? But let's read it into the language a little more. Fire's a rocket that does massive AoE damage when it hits anything. Not just a person, but walls, the floor, potentially even other abilities, anything. To me, this sounds as if it has overlap with Brimstone's ult, which although very powerful when used against enemies who can't escape, can be avoided relatively easily if used carelessly. This will probably be how Showstopper works. You might even be able to shoot the rocket mid-flight. I don't expect its velocity to be like hit scan. You can already do this kind of thing against things like Sova's Recon Arrow. How big an outplay would that be, shooting a rocket out of the air? If possible, you know it's going to happen. And if you do it just as she's firing it, bang, Raze will eat her own ult. Cue a million Reddit clips. To me, Raze seems quite plausible actually, especially when you read into her kit a bit more. I think she's a mix of Breach and Brimstone, and if I had to guess, she'd also be categorized as an initiator. Unfortunately, we don't have the same level of info for the second agent potentially datamined. We do have an apparent in-game model and a picture of his face, but as Valorantori points out, that's about it. This is probably because he might not be in the beta. 10 agents, 9 already known, only space for 1 more in this build, which is probably Raze. Valorantori does say in their tweet that from the files they have for him, he might have some kind of flash and decoy utility. That sounds reasonable. There's only 2 agents with flashes right now in the game, Phoenix and Breach, and I do expect more to turn up at some point. The decoy thing is interesting because Phoenix's ult is essentially a decoy where you can create a copy of yourself for a short period of time, but you can still get kills, etc. The name Shatter makes me think of a mirror being broken, and his model backs this kind of aesthetic up in my mind's eye. Decoy grenades are terrible in CSGO, practically useless, but if you can throw a grenade that spawned a bot version of yourself without the same player control and lethality of Phoenix's ult, I could see that being somewhat useful, especially if you can carry more than one of them at a time. Just trying to spitball here, Shatter could have an ult similar to Mirage from Apex Legends, whereby he creates multiple copies of himself and you have to figure out which one is the real player. That could actually be more effective in Valorant than in, say, Apex, especially post-plant. That's obviously a complete guess, but I could see it working like that. Let me know in the comments section what kind of utility would suit this character in your opinion. I'd be fascinated with what you guys could come up with. This is a small detail, but Valorantori also covered an image of the ranks set to be found in the upcoming Valorant competitive mode. Riot talked about this with Lupo on his stream as well, with the rank mode set to be implemented into the beta a few weeks in. As you can see from the image, there are 3 tiers to each rank, with Immortal being the final one. Players of games like Overwatch may not be used to this, but CSGO fans are used to the same ranks having multiple tiers, and the whole system is very like League of Legends, so players of that game will also find it familiar. I'll be pleased if I can make it to Mythic, personally. The skill gap in an FPS like Valorant is huge, so expect progress to be slow but very, very rewarding. I can't wait to get carried by my better friends. Anyone else? Now, besides the 2 leaked agents, there was a whole bunch of cosmetic stuff also data mined, including some of the potential rewards for participating in the beta from Tuesday onwards. These include player cards and portraits, as well as unique gun buddies, which are like weapon charms. The closed beta weapon charm is something that I will wear with pride. It feels very special to be playing this game in the early stages, and we might look back years from now and be grateful we get a way to show off how long we've been playing for those lucky enough to get access. CSGO has service medals for long-term players. I have the 5-year one, but being honest, a physical in-game item is way cooler. Now, there's a ton more of cosmetic items found by these guys available on their Twitters, but I haven't shown it all because unlike new agent info, which will likely be spoiled anyway, sometimes viewers don't want us to show absolutely everything in videos like this, but suffice to say, there's quite a lot that's been found. So in conclusion then, it looks to me like Raze is a pretty sure bet to be a new agent announced at some point, with Shatter perhaps following a bit later. Let me know what you guys think about her potential kit, as well as all the ideas you can come up with for Shatter. I can't wait to play tomorrow, and if you're lucky enough to have got a drop already, I bet you're the same. Drops are enabled in specific streams when the beta goes live tomorrow, so if you haven't got access yet, check out your favorite streamers who do, and you might get lucky. And that's about all I wanted to talk about today. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you like the content on this channel, please hit that subscribe button and click the bell bell icon so you get notified when we upload. Until next time!